Space, the ultimate frontier.
Who hasn't dreamt to go above the skies, out of the atmosphere, into the stars? Today, guys, we have a huge honor to be able to interview a NASA astronaut and a former commander of the ISS, the International Space Station. Today, we have the huge honor and we're super grateful to be able to interview Mr. Commander Terry Virts. So, why don't we get right to it?
Reading is the most important thing I did when I was young and probably when I'm old too. That's what kind of inspires you and you learn about the world is through reading. I saw like this sunrise. It was the most amazing thing I've ever seen. It was like I was seeing creation from God's point of view. Don't tell yourself no. So whatever dream you have, whatever goals you have, don't tell yourself no. Tell yourself yes if, and then figure out the path that you need to get there and then start doing those things.
So here, guys, we have the legendary Terry Virts himself, the very famous astronaut and a commander of the ISS, a former commander. So we're honored to be able to have you on the show, Mr. Terry.
It's great to be with you. I wish I was there in person.
Alright, so why don't we get with some questions to know about what you do and what inspired you, right?
That sounds good. Fire away.
What inspired you to become an astronaut, and how did you pursue your dream of going to space?
When I was a kid, the first book that I read that I can remember reading was about space. So it was one of those cardboard books with like one line per page, and it was about our moon program, Apollo. And I was hooked. I really wanted to do that. I said, that looks like a lot of fun. I want to go to the moon. So I grew up, I went to the Air Force Academy. I became an F-16 pilot, a test pilot, and then eventually NASA hired me. So that was my path. But it was really reading that got me inspired.
Right, so you really just, so your first book was just really what now made your whole career come to life. All right.
It was, exactly. Reading is the most important thing I did when I was young and probably when I'm old too. That's what kind of inspires you and you learn about the world is through reading.
Okay. Can you share a memorable experience or adventure from your time aboard the International Space Station, the ISS, that made you say, wow, this is out of this world?
I have thousands. I've written several books, adult books and a kid book. I've made a couple of movies. I do speaking, so I have so many stories. But one amazing time I was on a spacewalk. So I'm in my spacesuit and I've got all my equipment in front of me and I'm plugging in cables. And I had to wait a few seconds for the other astronaut who was out there with me. So I stopped and I rotated and I looked away and I saw like this sunrise. It was the most amazing thing I've ever seen. It was like I was seeing creation from God's point of view. Like it was just amazing to see this thing. I thought humans aren't supposed to see this. It was really beautiful. And then I turned around and I had to get back to work because I had to plug in the next cable. So I kind of had this spiritual experience seeing the beautiful universe and then back to work to put more cables on the space station.
Okay. How does microgravity affect you in, well, your daily life in space? Like doing exercises, eating, sleeping, or even drinking?
How does microgravity affect me in space? In a lot of ways. So it affects your body. It makes your bones and muscles weaker. So you have to exercise to fight that. NASA gives us 2.5 hours a day to do weightlifting, basically, and running on a treadmill or a bike. So you get a couple hours a day to work out. And I came back in really good shape. I came back to space from space, and I had lost 0% of my bone density. So all that exercise really helped. Um, but then not only does it affect you like your bones and muscles, but just moving around is not easy. It takes a few days or really a few weeks before you can get really good at it. There's a learning curve that takes some time just to learn. You move with your hands and you carry stuff with your feet, and you have to put everything in your pockets or on Velcro. Our shorts have Velcro on it, so you stick things to your pants or whatever, or you have bags. You have to do something to keep track of stuff because if you just let go of it, it just floats away. So um, it's a big change to the way you go about your daily business.
All right. So it's really just affects you in every single way.
It does. Everything about being in space is different because of weightlessness. We say that everything is harder in space except for pull-ups. If you want to go to the gym and do pull-ups, those are easier in space. But just keeping track of things and like right now, so I have a phone. I just set it on the table and it just stays there on the phone. But in space, it would like be floating away. So you just have to spend a lot of brain power thinking about your stuff.
Right. And well, how do you do when you like eat or drink? How like does the food like do you choke because like the food has to like right. It's in
Yeah. So that's a really good question. That scientists were afraid before the first humans flew in space, they didn't think we could survive. So when you eat on Earth, the food doesn't just fall down into your stomach. You have little muscles that push it down all the way down. And so it works fine in space. You just have to, like, I have a drink right here. So you couldn't do this in space because the carbonation would shoot out. Like if you had a Coke, it would just shoot carbonation everywhere. But we have fruit drinks or tea or coffee or smoothies. Any kind of drink you can make in powder form, you have in space. And I don't know if you know Capri Suns. They're little metal drink bag like with juice in them,
yes,
and
yeah.
you put a straw. And yeah, all kids around the world have those. So that's the kind of drinking that we do. They're little metal bags, and you just stick a straw in it. And for food, they have food that is very similar to what military people eat. They come in metal packets. You just open it up and it's ready to go. You can eat it. Or some of our food is dehydrated, so you have to plug it into a machine and fill it up with water. Or some of the food is what we call natural form. It's just nuts or chocolate or jerky from the grocery store. So eating in space is not bad. It just requires a little bit of extra effort.
All right. And what experiments or projects have you been working on when you were in the ISS? And how do they contribute to understanding science and technology?
So on my last flight, we had 250 different experiments, and it was from everything: biology, physics, astronomy, materials science, a lot of medical experiments. I was basically a guinea pig. They were looking at all different kinds of things of my body. Was focused on eyes because astronauts' eyes have problems in space because on Earth, all the fluid goes down to your legs and feet, but in space it floats up. So your face gets kind of puffy, and that increases pressure on your eyes and it causes problems. So I spent several months just with the ultrasound, like looking at my eyeball and my brain and also my heart. We did infrared and laser images of my eye. Anyway, lots of different medical experiments. We have mice in space. That's called rodent research that helps out with drug companies. That's probably some of the most important experiments that astronauts do. And there's a big machine on the outside of the space station called AMS-2, and it's looking for antimatter. And by finding these little particles coming in from the universe, it can tell how much dark matter and dark energy is out there. So it helps astronomers understand what the universe is made of, which I think is pretty cool.
Okay. And what advice do you have for young kids around the world who want to become astronauts or pursuing a STEM career throughout their life? What
Right.
advice do you have?
So I just wrote a book. I'll show it to you, called "The Astronaut's Guide to Leaving the Planet," and it's a great book for kids. It's illustrated, and I talk about in that book advice that I have is don't tell yourself no. So whatever the dream is that you want to do, don't tell yourself no. Tell yourself yes if. If you want to be an astronaut, you should probably study math and science and engineering, that kind of thing. Education is super important no matter what you want to do. And there's different steps, like learning how to fly would be important. There's engineers and scientists and doctors and pilots. There's different types of people that become astronauts. But look at whatever country you're in, see what kind of program they have. I know you're in the UAE. They just launched their first astronauts, I think it was last year.
Yeah, on the moon.
Yeah,
Last
and they
year.
have the Hope satellite around Mars. So
Yeah.
the Emirates is really pursuing space, which is really cool. So find out how to get to where you want to go, and then start taking those steps. But the first and most important step is don't tell yourself no. And like I said, education, no matter what you want to do, if you want to be a doctor, if you want to start a company, if you want to do anything, having education is going to be super important. And reading, I can't overstate how important reading is. I liked reading books that I liked. I hated reading some of the books that we had to read in English class. I got bad grades in English class. I was like the worst English student in my school. And now I've written 4 books, and I've got another one in work. Now I'm an author. And it's because I'm writing about things that I like and enjoy. And so the key to reading is read something that you like.
All right. Thank you. And so, can you explain to us what significance of international collaborations can affect how we think of space, how it is basically? So, can you explain the significance of international collaboration in space exploration and how it enhances success about taking care of our planet?
Well, international cooperation is the key to space exploration today. We have the International Space Station, and NASA has a new project called Artemis, and there's something called the Artemis Accords. It's the key to any big project in space. You can have, you can do small things just with one country, but if we're going to do big things like go to the moon and Mars, I think international is key. And so if you want to be an astronaut, being able to speak different languages and understanding how the world works, and being able to work with people from different countries, that's really important. So that's another thing to think about if you're a kid and you want to be an astronaut, or even if you just want to work in the space industry. If you're an engineer, or you're an astronaut trainer or whatever, they're all having to work with different cultures.
Right, so you're saying that really, so I didn't really get what you meant. So how do you think that it can, all these collaborations can contribute to learning more about space and all? How do you think about that?
Well, for example, the Emirates have their Hope satellite that went to Mars. But they collaborated with the University of Colorado in Boulder. The University of Colorado has a really good space program. Lots of astronauts have come from there, a lot of space scientists. They make instruments that go on satellites. So they collaborated. NASA has the James Webb Space Telescope, our new big infrared telescope. But it was in collaboration with the European Space Agency. It was launched on a European rocket, and so there was a lot of collaboration between Europe and NASA for that. So it is just it's a part of space exploration today, is being able to work with folks from around the world.
And you think that can help because, well, people have different opinions and all, right? You think that can really help?
Yeah. And the other good thing that it helps is that not every uh, country has to do everything. Like some countries can focus on certain things. When I was talking with the Emirates leadership, my advice was don't try and build rockets. America has SpaceX, and now Jeff Bezos, Blue Origin, and we have ULA with Vulcan. There's a lot of rockets being launched from America. So you guys should focus on building the satellites or building certain instruments or whatever. In Canada, it's a much smaller country, so they didn't build the space shuttle, they built the robotic arms. So they build the arms and the manipulators that help do things that astronauts can't do. So I think, especially for smaller countries, they could find like one or two, find a smaller thing that they're good at and they can focus on. And in that way, it's kind of like trade. This is the way trade works in the economy. Not every country does everything. Some countries have natural resources, some countries have food, some countries have manufacturing. And if everybody does their thing really well, it helps it helps everybody else out. So
All right. And how does the view from space of Earth impact astronauts, well, personally, and what can we learn from that perspective about taking care of our planet?
My first book was a National Geographic photography book, and there's a chapter in there called Colors because I got to learn the Earth by color. Just looking down at our planet, there's so many diverse colors. Like all the deserts are different colors. The Saudi desert is different color than the Sahara, is different than the Australian outback. The oceans have different shades of blue. It really was amazing. And the first movie I made, the IMAX movie, is called A Beautiful Planet. I helped make it.
I think I know that one. I think I know. It's on
It's a great
It's on
film.
Netflix, right?
Yeah, it's A Beautiful Planet. It's about the space station, and Jennifer Lawrence narrates
Oh
it.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a great it's a great. It was a lot of fun making that movie, but it really is a beautiful planet. So you can see just the Earth is amazing. It's so beautiful. But there were two environmental problems that I could see. Now, just looking out, that's not science. In order to really do science, you have to take measurements over
Yeah.
many decades. But I could see pollution in China and also in India. China was just very brown. There's a lot of pollution there. And India is pretty smoggy also. And then you could see deforestation, especially in Madagascar. Back in the 1950s, they just cut down all the trees. But the Amazon in Brazil, you could see a big patch of forest that used to be forest, and now it's all cut down, which is terrible. So that needs to end. They need to stop. They need to stop cutting down the Amazon.
Okay. Well, thank you for. So you're basically saying that like that some countries, like you were saying, like mentioning, that should be more careful and of the surroundings because you think it's just so beautiful.
It's a beautiful planet, and I have so many countries I want to go visit. Like when I was in space, I saw the Palm Islands in the Emirates. I didn't know what they were. I'd never heard of them. And I told my crewmates, I said, "Hey guys, look at that. You can see these palms out in the ocean." And they were like, "Yeah, that's Dubai." They knew that. I didn't know that. I'd never seen it. So I saw a lot of beautiful places on Earth, but we need to cut back on pollution, and we need to stop deforesting the Amazon for sure.
All right. And what technological advancements are you most excited about for future space exploration, and how do you think that it will shape the way that we explore space?
I think the most important technology that is going to enable future space exploration is nuclear power, in space nuclear power. Um, Normal rockets, a chemical rocket like the space shuttle, I've got the space shuttle there, they can only go so fast. Uh, Burning fuel and shooting out the back has a limit as how fast you can go. If you do electric engines, so instead of burning fuel, you put an electrical charge and that electrical charge shoots it out the back. if you use electricity to push your propellant, you can go a lot faster, several times faster. And in fact, a normal chemical rocket takes 3 years for a human Mars mission. It's 6 to 9 months to get there. Then you have to wait on the surface while the planets go around the sun for a year and a half, and then 6 to 9 months to come home. So it's roughly 3 years for the whole time, 1,000 days, over 1,000 days. If you do electric propulsion, you can get there and back in 1 year, which is doable. I think 3 years is too long. I think 1 year you can do that. So in order to have enough electricity to push a big giant human rocket ship, you would need nuclear power.
So tell me that in the rocket ship you have to wait for like 3 years to get there.
Well, it's half a year to get there,
Okay.
a year and a half on Mars, and then a half year to come home again.
Oh,
More
we're
than
talking
a
about
half
2
year.
months.
So
Alright, yeah.
the total round trip ticket is 3 years. So
Well, a
if
lot
you
of
do
time.
an electric rocket, you can go there and back in 1 year. So I think that nuclear power, and then when you're on the surface, you have to have a nuclear power plant because solar panels and batteries just won't work for humans on the surface of Mars. So you have to have nuclear power on the surface anyway. So I think nuclear power is the key for human space exploration in the future.
All right. And how is your experience as like a pilot of the U.S. Air Force contribute to your preparation for space mission? And what skills are crucial for an astronaut to be an astronaut?
I think being a pilot was the most important training that I had. It forces you to think under pressure. You have to think ahead of the airplane, like the airplane's flying. So you can't just think about what's happening right now. You have to think about what's going to happen in 30 seconds, what's going to happen in a minute, what's going to happen in 10 minutes. So you have to think ahead while you're flying the airplane. You have to be thinking ahead. So it's really good. We call it head work. It's good for your situational awareness, is another term we use as pilots. And that's probably the most important training. Even if you're not an F-16 pilot, even if you're just if you're a scientist, I think you should get your private pilot's license and learn how to fly Cessnas, because that is the most, in my mind, most important skill for astronauts.
Right, okay. So you're saying that it's going to put you ahead and aware of like your future, of the future, predicted, okay.
Exactly.
And the last question. If you could choose one thing that you want kids to take away from this experience, from your experiences in space, what would it be?
It would be, don't tell yourself no. So whatever dream you have, whatever goals you have, don't tell yourself no. Tell yourself yes if, and then figure out the path that you need to get there, and then start doing those things. Even if you don't get there, you will at least have tried, and you'll have fun along the way, and you'll learn a lot. So don't tell yourself no. That's my takeaway.
All right, well, thank you a lot for today, Mr. Terry Virts, Commander Terry Virts. And yeah, so I hope that you guys have enjoyed this video. Yeah, see you next one. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.